and they said,
"No, I know."
2 thumbs up. I mean, it's
the British Communist Party came out with something fucking insane recently, which was like praising Brexit as the most successful revolutionary movement in recent history. It's just like, this is what Stalin. This is where Stalinism takes you, guys. Don't become a Stalinist, all right?
They seem
Here
to
we are.
fundamentally object.
Alex Gordon, General Secretary of the Stalinist Communist Party of Great Britain, wrote a piece for the 10th anniversary of the Brexit vote in which he argues that Brexit was a revolutionary act. I'd say comparing Brexit to the miners' strike is fucking bonkers. If you read carefully what Gordon writes, his point actually seems to be that the Brexit referendum was more revolutionary an act than the miners' strike, as the miners were defeated while the Brexit referendum delivered a catastrophic defeat for the ruling class. The miners were defeated by the state onslaught planned and executed by the Thatcher government. The EU referendum was a catastrophic defeat for the principal strategy of British state monopoly capitalism. The miners' strike was a sustained collective action on the part of a significant section of the working class for its class interests, fought under a class leadership, one which had shortcomings, but nevertheless it was a class leadership. It did have revolutionary implications, though in the end it was defeated. The Brexit referendum divided the working class. On both sides, it was led by capitalist elements who stirred up reactionary ideas. The referendum was certainly a defeat for the main wing of the ruling class, but it does matter at whose hands they were defeated. They were not defeated by a movement of the working class putting forward its own interest, but by an unnatural coalition led by bourgeois elements, uniting behind it some sections of the working class, petty bourgeois, reactionary racists, etc. Gordon ends by saying, "The question is whether the working class and those who are crushed by the interests of the financial oligarchs of the City of London will choose to live in a new way." Anyone who knows about the British Road to Socialism, the CPB's programme, will realise he is in fact advocating an alliance between the working class and those mythical sections of the ruling class who are crushed by the financial oligarchy. Read the British Road to Socialism in its latest edition. Other people too, including those in the non-monopoly section of the capitalist class, can become aware of the destructive and divisive character of monopoly capitalism. Later it advocates an anti-monopoly alliance. To be noted, in this article the word socialism is not even mentioned. We can talk about it, yeah, like we say, it was a defeat for the ruling class. It was a defeat for the establishment. The establishment did try to, like, on both sides of the left and the right, advocated for Remain, and the vote for Brexit was an anti-establishment vote. But there's nothing progressive or revolutionary about it. Nuts. I think we wrote a quite long article on Brexit in the... Oh yeah, no, here it is. Here we are. I can read it. Actually, I've been meaning to read this, and since you said... exactly. I'll actually read this. It's quite a long article, but you did ask for it, and I've been meaning to read it. A decade ago, UK voters went to the polls for the EU referendum, setting Britain on the road to Brexit and opening up a new period of instability. How did this turning point come about, and what lessons do these events have for communists today? From the 100 Years' War between England and France in medieval times, to the Napoleonic battles of the early 19th century, to the imperialist conflicts of World War I and World War II, the relationship between Britain and Europe has always been complicated, to say the least. Less bloody than these events, but equally historic, was the Brexit vote of June 2016, which represented a decisive rupture in Anglo-European relations. The aftershocks of this political earthquake are still being felt today. British capitalism bears the scars of losing free access to the market of its biggest trading partner. Government ministers are talking about a reset between the UK and Europe. Careerists like Wes Streeting, meanwhile, have gone even further, calling for Britain to rejoin the EU. On the other side, Reform UK, formerly known as the Brexit Party, is currently riding high in the polls, and its leader, the prominent Leave campaigner Nigel Farage, is eyeing up a residency in number 10. A decade on from the EU referendum, therefore, it is clear that the subject of Europe still haunts British politics. It raises a number of pertinent questions. How did Brexit come about in the first place? What attitude should communists have towards the European project? And what is the perspective for Britain and the continent's relationship with one another in the coming period, an era of deepening capitalist crisis? The current map of Europe was shaped dramatically by the outcome of the Second World War, and in particular by the interests of the conflict's primary imperialist victor, the USA. The war had left Western Europe in ruins. To the east, meanwhile, now stood the Soviet Union and its Stalinist satellite states. Afraid of the threat of revolution and the spread of communism, Washington encouraged the devastated European powers to band together, lest they hang separately. This was facilitated by a healthy dose of reconstruction aid and investment from the US under the Marshall Plan, along with the formation of NATO, Western imperialism's military and security alliance. Europe's biggest players also had an interest in huddling together. French and German capitalism, amongst others, had been devastated by the war. Weak and divided, these now second-rate powers had no chance of retaining their markets and influence unless they joined forces. The Americans' need for a bulwark... How do you fucking pronounce that word? Bulwark against the USSR therefore aligned with the European ruling class's desire to retain their relevance on the world stage. Hence the formation of the European Coal and Steel Committee under the Treaty of Paris in 1951, and later the European Economic Committee in 1957, the forerunners to the European Union. Britain initially steered clear of this process of European integration. This was much to the annoyance of the Americans, who hoped to see their special relationship partners at the centre of this venture as a reliable pawn for US imperialism's interests. Coming out of the war, still puffed up with delusions of grandeur, the British establishment thought that they could rely upon their empire, and later the Commonwealth, when it came to plundering the planet and keeping the profits flowing into the City of London. Even after the humiliation of the Suez Crisis in 1956, I need to read more about that, when British and French troops were forced to back out of Nasser's Egypt, Britain's ruling class looked more across the Atlantic than it did across the Channel. The scepticism ran both ways. The French, in particular, objected to Britain's involvement in the European project, fearing rightly that it would act as a Trojan horse for American imperialism inside the continent's walls. Furthermore, France and Germany did not want a rival to their hegemonic alliance when it came to the leadership of the European community. True. Both camps, in other words, were happy for Britain and Europe to chart their own courses. Yeah, I hate this shit. Like, I'm big against, like, Soviet aesthetics, or like the fetishization of Soviet aesthetics. It doesn't help us, I don't think. Like, I've seen like communists walking around like with a Ushanka in central London. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? But that's more of a personal opinion. I don't really have a principle. I don't know. I think it's just sort of alienating. And like makes socialism and communism seem like a Russian thing when it's not. The changing balance of forces in the post-war period eventually altered these arrangements. These decades saw an unprecedented upswing for capitalism globally. This rising tide lifted all boats, with world trade increasing at a blistering pace. This helped to paper over the national antagonisms between the different European powers, for the time being, enabling closer economic connections within the tariff-free EEC. The benefits of the post-war boom were not spread evenly, however. British capitalism, whilst growing in absolute terms, was losing out relative to its main rivals. While the British Empire crumbled, German and French industry flourished. Between 1950 to 1970, Germany's economy grew at an average rate of 6.2% per year, while its manufacturing base expanded by 8% a year. In France, the equivalent figures were 5% and 5.8%, respectively. For Britain, a paltry 2.7% and 3.3%. For the EEC as a whole, meanwhile, economic output per person grew by 215% overall, compared to just 88% in Britain. British industry and manufacturing was gradually falling behind, becoming less and less competitive internationally. This was reflected in the UK's share of global exports, which fell from more than a quarter in 1950 to just a tenth in 1971. As a result, over time, British capitalism organically began to forge greater economic ties with Europe. In 1948, the Commonwealth accounted for almost one-third of UK exports. By 1961, however, Britain was trading more with Western Europe than with its former colonies. Big business in Britain and on the continent, therefore, increasingly had a mutual interest in seeing the UK join the EEC, also known as the European Common Market. By this point, it was also clear that Britain's special relationship with America was far from being a partnership of equals. To maintain its importance to Washington, the British establishment needed to offer the US imperialists what they had always desired: a bridgehead into Europe for American capital. Britain therefore applied to join the EEC, first in 1961 and again in 1967. But on both occasions, these applications were blocked by French President Charles de Gaulle due to aforementioned scepticism towards Britain's role and goal within Europe. Following de Gaulle's death in 1969, Britain made a third, now successful attempt at EEC membership. And after a few years of negotiations and legislation, the UK eventually joined the common market on the 1st of January 1973. Yeah, it is, like, what you're saying is kind of true, especially at the early stages, right? Like, the people who are going to... So, for example, like, the organisation that I'm in now was technically founded a few years ago, but it draws its roots back to an organisation that was founded in the 90s, called Socialist Appeal, the International Marxist Tendency. And to be a communist in the 90s and early 2000s, you had to be a fucking nutcase, all right? The USSR had just collapsed. It seems like capitalism is won everywhere. Why the fuck are you a communist, right? And so, of course, it draws together basically theory nerds and just, like, strange people, right? Like, unquestionably. It takes a slightly strange person to, like, like, advocate for overthrowing capitalism. How did those two things happen? What two things? No, Farage and Le Pen. Oh, yeah. So the Farage thing is a bit of a stunt. Basically, Farage is being... He's had a bunch of money that he's received from foreign nationals, like crypto billionaires. He's received, like, millions of pounds from them. And he's under a lot of scrutiny by the media. Now, instead of just, like, answering... Yeah, which is, kind of, basically. It's also kind of true that they tend to be the most committed, and, like, that they form, like, a good core around which to grow an organization. But, yeah, the type of people that are being recruited 5 years before the revolution are very different to the type of people who are being recruited 30 years before the revolution. It's also just like a numbers game, like, and also, like, if your organization to begin with is full of these admittedly strange people, it will attract other admittedly strange people. It's kind of just like an inevitable consequence of growing something from being very small, without the backing of finance capital. The other way to do it is to just he's clearly doing this as a kind of stunt to draw attention away from his financial impropriety and to basically, like, refresh his mandate in Clacton. Now, unfortunately, first of all, no, I don't really think... Well, I think with a successful campaign he could. But a lot of the other parties basically seem content to... Yeah, a lot of the other parties are basically going, this is just a stunt, we're not even going to stand a candidate in this election, and just allow Farage to win it. I think the Greens should stand a candidate and contest the election. I don't think they're going to win it, but I think it will be an important platform to attack Farage on. There's a chance, this is a gamble that Farage is doing. He's basically gambling that people will not care so much about the massive amounts of money he's been receiving, and will be so committed to his political project of kicking brown people out of the country. That would be a Labour strategy there. Let's get our least popular candidate and run them in Clacton. Brilliant idea. You should work for the Labour Party, man. It is something they would do. So yeah, like, I think I basically the reason I'm kind of declining to cover it anymore is because I kind of see that, as with a lot of news these days, it is basically just a distraction. But yeah, like, he is one of the more competent politicians in the country, and he's kind of realised that his back's against the wall because the media and the parliamentary committee have found out about his dodgy dealings, and so the only recourse that he has is basically like a plebiscite by-election, where it's like, let the idiots in Clacton decide whether I'm guilty or not. Yeah, Count Binface will almost certainly be running. What are the Greens' actual policies? The Greens' policies are basically a lot of competent... I just mean, like, compared to Starmer and compared to the Labour Party. Like, he's better at using the media machine to gain popularity. Starmer seems committed to being unpopular. Like, it's incompetent unless you realise that his goal isn't really to be popular. It's to just inflict as much damage on the British working class in favour of British capitalism as possible. Yeah, this wasn't fun. Labour did a deal with the Tories to keep the Greens out in Brent. Scumbags. Yeah, so it's basically a bunch of pretty good social reforms, but unfortunately funded through borrowing, which is not going to work. Because borrowing from who? Borrowing from capitalists to make attacks against capitalism? Why would they do that? So, yeah, I mean, it's not really worth going through in great detail. It's basically a bunch of good ideas that they're not going to be able to put into practice. Unfortunately. Like, some stuff that they probably will be able to put into practice. Honestly, that is the geopolitical strategy, alright? If you want to be left alone in this world, you need 6,000 nukes, alright? It's the only choice.
We'll hear a little bit more from Farage. This is an example of how Farage knows how to manipulate the media, which only recently started doing...
This is kind of what I mean by competent, in the same way that Trump is competent, or was competent, at least, at using the media to his advantage. Yeah, this is why, people in my organization have been very hesitant about online activism, and for good reason, I think. As someone who became a socialist because of online leftists, I can see the usefulness and the severe limitations of it as well. And so my pitch is how I'm different from all the other communists and socialists on YouTube is that I'm actually involved in the movement in real life. And so that constant engagement with actual reality, it means that I'm a lot more sensible and reasonable, hopefully, and less hysterical. Oh yeah, Mitch McConnell's brain dead! As the kind of progressive... Big news. To media. So now he's just like all the other US senators. No, I'm kidding, sorry. That's in poor taste.
And now he's thrown a massive temper tantrum.
Sorry, no, it might have been Graham Plattner, who was he was like a veteran who had a Nazi tattoo. He claimed that he didn't know what it meant at the time. He's worked as a mercenary, basically had a leftist awakening and decided he was going to run as a DSA aligned socialist in the Democratic Party, but it just came out that he raped his last girlfriend and has a bunch of other sexual impropriety stuff. So it's a big L for the socialist movement in America. But I mean, it's just one guy. It's not we'll live. But yeah, a lot of energy had already gone into that race, and the cutoff for putting someone else in the slot is, I think it's the 13th, so they haven't got much time to put another candidate up. So he's basically just fucked the chances of a socialist winning in Maine. It's not the biggest deal, but it's not great. I don't know enough about Nick Fuentes to speculate. It wouldn't surprise me. So wait till you find out what the devout Catholics in the Catholic Church were doing to little boys. Oh my God, you're going to be horrified. It is not possible to be Catholic and gay. Proof. I made it the fuck up. My guess is that he definitely reads a little bit gay. It wouldn't surprise me at all. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Unless you're a Catholic, I guess. Then it might be a bit of a problem. Alright, I changed my mind. There's no fucking way, alright? No, I'm kidding. It's a good thing we weren't talking about being manly, we were talking about being gay. Weird that you took it there, though. No, let me be very clear. We're not accusing him of being gay in the sort of childish playground sense that you mean it. We are talking about whether he likes having sex with men, alright? Just to be very clear. No, there was this great... sorry, I'm just reminded of this Subway takes.
So what's your take?
Gay people should have to wear badges.
100% disagree.
See, the reason you're saying that is because you don't know I'm gay. But if I had a badge, you'd know and this wouldn't keep happening.
You don't give gay, I'll say that much.
I don't give gay! I need a badge, Kareem.
That's why when you said that, I was actually a little alarmed. And I was like, what the f*** are we doing?
If I have a badge, you're like, okay, he's part of the community.
Some gay people do have a badge. It's they do the gay voice.
But this is just campness, it's not gay. Also, straight men have never been gayer.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You could just be a liberal straight guy. It's do you or do you just believe Palestine has a right to exist? I can't tell. I'm trying to gay up. I can't get a septum piercing. It'll get infected.
Is the badge so that other gay people know you're gay, or is it for me to know you're gay? Because I personally don't care if you're gay or not.
Sure, but I do. Straight people have to wear badges as well.
Oh, okay, so everyone will wear a badge.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Fascism is on the rise. Let's lean into it.
But actually, I kind of like the surprise element of it. I like that you're secret hidden gay.
But you can lie on your badge. So then, like, it'll say straight, you'll look away and I'll go, and then I'll put, you know what I mean? You still get the surprise.
You're even sitting like a straight. I'm sitting like a gay.
Exactly, you're the gayer out of the two.
Cross legs, nice posture.
The only thing that's gay about me is that I have sex with men, and I don't even do that because no one knows I'm fucking gay. Like, get me the badge.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is he gay or straight?
Whatever he wants to be.
No!
Oh, off London! Whatever he wants to be! I'm sick of this! I like arse! Get me a badge! Or, at the very least, build me a gaydar. Get me like a machine that I power up.
Like a little
Gay.
spaceship.
People like Dance Horny, he's booting up the gaydar and they're beep, 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 beep. Straight, but likes the look, you know? It'll be very useful. There's a bit of space where you could put other things on there as well. Peanut allergy.
That would be important.
Don't like hugging. It's also, like, my mum's recently died, you could put that on. My mum hasn't, but if she had, I'd put it on the badge. Oh, baby.
Oh, now you look a little gayer.
Do I?
Yeah, because you took the glasses
Really?
off. You have gay eyes.
No badge needed.
Look at the camera, he has
they're
gay eyes.
They're very deep. Do you know what I mean? We need to change this man's badge.
Outstanding.
So what's your take?
Gay people should have.
Honestly, that show is great. They really figured out the formula, you know?
I'll even make that argument. The truth is, though, Reform UK are a big existential threat to our democracy. A democracy which is...
Oh, fuck off, Owen. Seriously, why do we have to do this shit, then? Oh, for fuck's sake. No, come on. We need to stop doing this shit. Trump is gonna end the democracy. Le Pen will end democracy. Can we stop leaning into this fucking liberal hysteria? Fuck.
which is becoming ever more menaced, not least as our civil liberties are stripped away, and power is concentrated in the hands of the rich. And one of the ways that democracy is corrupted by capitalism is the role of big money, and this is an example of that. But Reform UK, if they, heaven forbid, ended up in power, I mean, they would launch an unprecedented assault on our civil liberties, on the judiciary. I mean, it's all there out in the open. I did a video about this a few weeks ago. They would set up a hard right authoritarian regime in this country. They would
No, guys,
left up.
you look, what is the Groiper playbook? What is he going to say? He was watching it as a joke. It was just a joke, guys. You don't get the humor. It's a joke.
Using all sorts of pretenses. For example, because what they want to do is ban protests against Israel's genocide. They're going to try and set up this ICE style paramilitary like in the United States, which would just be going, swooping people on the streets and from their homes and their workplaces. And if the left protest against that, they would just, I know what they'll do. They'll say this is incitement.
No, but they're like, this is one of the biggest problems of the left, both in the UK and the US, is this mistaking of reactionary right-wing parties with fascism. All right? Now, don't get me wrong. Fascism is on the rise. It is on the rise as a consequence of the collapsing of capitalism. Absolutely. But the misidentifying of these fucking clowns like Boris Johnson, Donald Trump, because they use the state more aggressively than has been used in the past. Because Donald Trump is increasing the use of the executive power of the state, which he is doing, no doubt, and this is a problem and something we need to fight against. But it's hardly crystal knacked, Something my entire chat agrees on. Brilliant.
BBC
Excellent.
News,
Fascism is when the state does things that I don't like. If it does things I like, that's normal democracy, alright?
Iran has defeated the US empire and humiliated Israel.
Say it again.
Iran has defeated the US empire and humiliated Israel. They did what no one thought was possible and forced the largest military empire the world has ever seen to the negotiating table.
The Iranians, very smart people.
This is what a defeated Trump sounds like, all right?
Is the story of
Did you say primitive genius?
A sort of primitive genius.
This is the story of how it happened and why the world as you know it will never be the same.
They're primitive genius and we're civilized stupid. Exactly, the Democrats are 100% complicit in all this as well. There was recently an article from Hillary Clinton. Let me pull it up. This. The world may not like Trump's Gaza plan, but there's no alternative. These fuckers are the same. All right. The reason they hate Trump. All right. Here's why the liberals hate Trump. Is because he's done what they were always too fucking scared to do. That's it.
If it weren't for me, Israel would not exist today.
How did a nation...
Guys, he has the answer. We just need to get rid of Trump and Israel won't exist anymore. If only it were that easy, right? Yeah. So my argument is not that we shouldn't worry about fascism or that it's like it is very clearly possible for, I mean, what preceded fascism in the 20th century? It was precisely distressed liberal capitalism that led to it. So like, obviously there is a sort of threat, but it's important to like identify your enemies correctly, because if America was currently a fascist government, here's the proof, right? You would not be possible to kick ICE out of Minneapolis with the general strike. That sort of shit gets you killed, all right? What would have happened in a fascist country is every single striking worker would have been lined up and shot, all right? But that didn't happen because America is not currently fascist, because it is currently possible, still possible, very possible, to use working class, actively working class communist socialist means to fight against the regime, and our comrades in America are doing it. All right, they are calling themselves communists and gaining massive popularity in America. Well, I've already found my new job, skimming off other people's unemployment checks while they catch up on the news. A truly recession-proof business plan.
It didn't. This was a 40-year project engineered by men whose names are rarely spoken in the West. First, Hassan Tahran.
I mean, it's kind of like, it's already kind of here, it's been happening kind of slowly. But yeah, no, it will reach a tipping point at some point. It's interesting you say within a few weeks. I'd be curious to know why you think a few weeks specifically, if it's something you've read.
Missile program. During the brutal Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s,
or it's just a vibe, which is fair enough as well.
Missiles rained down.
It's certainly coming soon, but like, I can't even. At the moment, like, before you explain, I probably wouldn't have said in the next few weeks, and I would be unable to determine when beyond like the next 5 years, probably. I think this bubble has, because it's so based on debt, has will have an incredible tendency to resist popping, basically. I don't think that means it's unpoppable, but I think, like, in a sense, the bubble is too big to fail, if people know what I mean. Like, I'm not being very clear, but like, yeah. So basically, the bubble kind of depends on the Iran conflict then, right? Because if the Iran conflict starts again, you're basically saying that will automatically trigger, because I'm aware that reserves have been basically depleted. Yeah. And then yeah, it's almost a certainty that Israel will, like, basically will. So here's how insane the capitalist system is now. The world economy not crashing is dependent on the American administration successfully explaining to the Israeli administration that if they don't get their fucking act in order, everyone will lose all their money. Do we have any trust that A, the American administration will actually be able to understand and explain that, or B, that the Israeli administration will actually listen? No. And no. So, yeah, man, that's... Yeah. When you put it like that, I mean, it's possible. It's within the realm of possibility that the prospect of the entire world economy collapsing would be enough to get Israel in line. That is possible. Not sure it's probable.
The Trump
But like concessions from who? From America? To do what that they haven't already been doing? Yeah, no, exactly. But they come from China, don't you know? We can't have anything that comes from China, even if it objectively will save the world. We must carry on our forward march to apocalypse in order to prevent China from gaining any advantage over us that they don't already have. But yeah, like when you say leverage against who? The US to do what exactly? Because it's quite clear now that the possibility of actually defeating Iran and installing a compliant Iranian regime is kind of been proven to not be possible, basically. Not without a ground invasion. If Trump, and I actually don't believe that Trump will go for a ground invasion of Iran. Like, he's really stupid. I don't think he's that stupid. I mean, like, yeah, no, exactly. Like, the West basically already unconditionally supports Israel's activities. Do you know why it's not set up for that kind of type of energy? It's been done that way on purpose, and we can undo it, we can change it. I guess we just have to watch the world burn around us. There's nothing we can do, guys. The world isn't built for us to not destroy it. Nothing we can do.
Already done.
But there's oil in the North Sea. We simply have to drill it up and burn it. There's nothing we can do. The market forces dictate what we do. We don't do what's good. We do what's profitable because we are capitalists. But man, the line did go up, didn't it, lads? The line did go up. It was all worth it. It's a good thing no one said that. It's a good thing no one said we should all instantly switch to never using anything oil-based ever again. It's a good thing we just said that we should be using more renewables, and then you invented a position and then got angry at that. Outstanding work as usual. And I hate to tell you, climate change is going to kill us all.
Over 1 billion.
Yeah, I don't mean literally every human being currently on Earth is going to die as a result of climate change. But I do mean that billions of people are going to die over the next 2 centuries, at least, if we continue on this current path.
And sales.
Like we're already seeing thousands and thousands of excess deaths in Europe as a result of this heat wave, because societies are not adapted for this heat.
Assisted ship propulsion, WASP, has come a long way since the age of sail. And just to get this out of the way, the goal here isn't necessarily to get rid of engines completely. But when we talk about wind-assisted propulsion, we're talking about reducing the amount that ships use their engines. If you can stop them using them at all, that's great, but that's not really what we're going for here.
The key thing is you've got to be operational, so you've got to come in under power, and you've got to have a good delivery date and firm with that delivery date. So Walter Value said, I'll bring my tobacco and potatoes and we might turn up 3 months tomorrow. That's not good enough in today's world. So you've got to have some form of backup. We can actually sail, and we do sail, and we have sailed without any combustion engine. That's entirely possible with today's sails, but it is a wind assist. So you give it to the pilot when you get to port, you put the wings down, and it's presented to the port as if it's a normal combustion engine ship.
9%.
Yeah. It's just the capitalists have been saying that for the last 20 to 30 years, and then they've done not enough. Like, this is a problem. And that's the reason for the hysteria as well, is the lack of action.
So in the end, why?
Because look, we can sensibly see, we can consciously see that we're going to need to move away from, at least, like, I don't think we're ever going to have no oil extraction. I mean, at some point it is going to fucking run out, which that will be its own problem. But like plastics, petrochemical, like there's all this important, pharmaceuticals, there's all this important stuff that comes from oil. What we need to stop doing is just burning it for energy. It's such a pointless waste of oil. Like, that's my critique. It's like we're wasting the oil we're pulling out of the ground, and we don't have that much of that. So we need to stop just burning it to heat water up to spin turbines, all right? It's like the most homunculus use of oil I can think of. But yeah, sorry, the thing I was going to say, but we can see that consciously, but the capitalists will not do it. And why won't they do it? Because the market forces have not yet indicated that, you know, using, like, in the present moment, it's still cheaper to use oil. That's why anyone would use oil. They're not burning it for fun because they get a kick out of it. They're doing it because it's cheaper than the alternative, right? And it will continue to be cheaper as long as the infrastructure continues to be invested into oil and not into renewables. So we need to force the capitalists to do it. Yeah, no, like, for sure. And this is the other thing, is like, yeah, we should probably be using the oil to build renewable energy so we don't have to use the oil.
Large ships are now starting to deploy kite sails, which are effectively large parachutes tethered 200 to 300 meters above sea level. And this specific example comes from a company called Airseas that automatically swoops the kite through a figure of 8 pattern, which generates more pulling force than a static kite.
Anyway, wind, it's good, it works. The world is not actually maybe ending, but maybe it still is.
We are the soldiers of the IDF, the world's most moral army. And we have discovered a solution to a most perplexing quandary. The human shield, when a terrorist hides behind a human shield, what do you do? Let the terrorists go? Well, we say no, human shields are expendable because they're animals. So we propose to go and shoot the shields. We should shoot the shields, the human shields. Well, they ain't human, so it's really okay to shoot the shields, shoot the shields. We should shoot the shields, the human shields. Now do you do to shoot them right in the face? Patrolling Gaza the other day, I shot a human shield as she kneeled down to pray. One more terrorist shield.
It's an American satire song mocking the IDF.
Let's party.
Don't worry. I know, but like, the problem with this song is a Zionist would unironically sing it and enjoy it. That's the problem with it. The problem is these people are beyond satire, all right? You can't actually make fun of them for being ridiculous because they'll just go, yeah, we are. So what? We're killing you. And on that basis, I'm deciding not to listen to any more of it. But thanks for sharing.
That report, which found that the global...
But no, it's not different. The thing that was backwards was burning oil to get ships around when we had a perfectly good way of getting around centuries ago. But also, neither of those types of sails were used centuries ago. Like, these are advanced sails.
With only
adoption. This technology just isn't perceived as fringe anymore. It's something that's being considered by the largest shipping companies in the world. And secondly, most of the installations have been retrofits of existing vessels. And that is a real strength of technologies like these. There is some variation for the type of cargo that a ship carries,
interesting segue,
types of ports
isn't it?
They visit,
talking about
really, these technologies can be bolted to the decks of
not using oil for
takes
shipping and shipping containers being bombed
ships are being
as a result of control over oil.
In mind.
It's crazy how it all comes together. Okay, so the deal's falling apart basically.
Really well, as have other factors.
Yeah, it looks like we're headed towards the bad ending.
Fuel is
the wonders of capitalism.
Under this model, there hasn't been much of an incentive for ship
like tactical nukes to do what? Unless you're talking about what, a civilian attack on a that's not a tactical nuke, that's a strategic nuke. Like, unless you're just talking about wiping out an Iranian city, which also will be a hit for Iran for sure. But I mean, honestly, actually now saying it out loud, I don't think it's likely. Don't worry. But yeah, a non-0% chance is correct. I don't think it's a very high chance.
The International Maritime Organization is a UN agency.
It doesn't really achieve anything. I guess it opens the strait.
Made it come
That's
about
fucked. That's fucked that I even said that out loud.
For safety at sea.
Yeah, no, because we like it's far-fetched, but also like, what is the way out for them? I actually can't see one. Well, I mean, the way out was just striking a deal with Iran, but clearly that's not that's proved impossible. So, like, what the fuck else? Ground invasion is the actual likely outcome.
Would not only
It'd be so unpopular. It'd be like, I can't imagine that even being successful in any capacity. I see a ground invasion being like increasingly likely now. Because what is the way out for them otherwise? That'd be so unpopular. Like, honestly, that might be the trigger for world revolution, a ground invasion of Iran. That's one of those events that it could just collapse everything.
Oh, and his little side character we'll meet later.
Yeah, like I went to uni to do music for my career, and that hasn't really panned out. I'm still kind of glad I went, and it means that I have the skills to produce music, basically, either my own or other people's, and I think that's kind of cool. I could do that for money, like on a small scale. I don't think I'd really enjoy doing it for like my job. I mean, maybe if I was successful as well, I don't know.
Look at that.
But like, yeah, striving for that kind of thing is detrimental to my psychological well-being.
The opposite.
We were going over some maths news.
Out of it, which I find
AI has solved some maths problems.
If you scroll down,
but the video's gotten kind of difficult to follow.
There it is.
I kind of just want to tough it out.
Put into
Fair enough. Seems sensible. It's better than what we did, which was just split our country into London and not London, and everywhere that was not London got nothing, and London got everything. Seems more sensible to do it your way. You know, the craziest, because in the beginning they would just use it, like the first problems they talked about, it was basically just using AI for like literature reviews and stuff like that, which is a good use of AI. This one was the most like interesting or shocking to me.
This year, 2026, Liam Price, a 23-year-old, just thought, you know what, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to solve Erdish problem 1196. And ChatGPT sat there for like 80 minutes and 17 seconds. And at the end of it, it spat out a full solution. And so there you are. We now live in a world where is a thing.
Problem 1196 involves primitive sets of integers such that blah 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 blah. It's another semi-impenetrable maths problem, and here's the paper that solved it. Classic maths. But right down the bottom here, page 32, in the acknowledgements and AI disclosure section, you can see that the initial proof of theorem 1.1 was generated by an autonomous run of GPT 5.4 Pro. And they link to it here. This is it. This is what Liam actually put in. Don't search the internet. This is a test. And then there's the actual problem. Oh, this is LaTeX, but large language model can parse that, no problem. Remember, this unconditional argument may require non-trivial, creative, and novel elements. And then chat replied with, "Oh yeah, I get what you're doing," and it made it look a bit nicer. And then it just thought for 80 minutes and 17 seconds, and then said yes. And then said, in fact, one can prove something slightly stronger. And then spat out a whole bunch of basically fully formed maths. In the paper here, they acknowledge that they took that. It was the novel breakthrough done by ChatGPT. Nevertheless, the final proofs in this paper have been generated and reviewed by the human authors using the AI-generated proofs as the starting points where appropriate. So it
is really cool that that's possible for some things. Like it's interesting as well as like it's very clearly something that's only useful to like if you already have the expertise. Yeah, no, not possible, my friend. But yeah, like obviously if I asked ChatGPT to do that and then it spat out a bunch of stuff, I'd have no fucking clue whether it was correct or not. So like there still is obviously an important human element here, but like it's just cool that it can, like the technology is cool. It just sucks how it's being used by the market. Is Charles on our money yet? I honestly don't know. I don't think he is. It's not really the kind of thing you pay attention to.
Gold.
But I feel like I would have heard about it if he was.
Tarnish or corrode.
I think they just think he's going to die soon enough, so there's no point changing all the currency. I genuinely think that's like the... Maybe, I could be wrong. Oh, okay. No, it's just because like there's not that much of it, right? So like so like the reason I haven't really seen it is because most of the money will still have the Queen's face on it. Look, you're allowed to have a royal family as like a tourist attraction, all right? That's fine. I'm not so opposed to culture that I'm like kill them all, but like just put them in a just have them as a tourist attraction, all right? They don't actually need to wield any political power, okay? They can just be celebrities. Like I don't really care. Yeah, unfortunately, it's also the kind of thing that will be used in a revolution. But yeah, like we're already talking about overthrowing him in that case. But like it is basically like a last resort that the bourgeois, it's not a republic, but the constitution has to just say no to anything that happens, and it will be the forces of reaction will rally around the monarchy, or have the potential to rally around the monarchy. Well, it depends on what you mean by good. If you mean stable, it can also kind of mean nothing gets done. I'm sure it's better than most other forms of government that currently exist, though. I'll give you that. I think that another important thing is like your control over media is better than in the way like we just have for-profit media running rampant in the US, the UK, and Australia. But as far as I'm aware, your media environment is just a lot less corrupted.
The rest is
because that's a big part of it. Like that's kind of where a lot of the insane politics comes from. Is basically like the ability for profit media to just manufacture problems.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean these are the fruits of the socialist movement of the past, right? And it's a testament to the success of that movement that countries have been able to hold on to those reforms, basically. It is also kind of a consequence of like a geopolitical quirk that your countries are like, as far as I'm aware, just like have a lot of oil. Norway has a lot of oil, so and has used that to basically just like stabilize its geopolitical position, and so it doesn't really have to engage with with like all the other imperialist nonsense.
True wealth.
Yeah, but again, the difference being is that you've invested that money into a sovereign wealth fund rather than just letting for-profit oil companies drill it all up and burn it. Yeah, don't worry. I think you're a very isolated country.
To be honest, it's definitely better
from war.
One, but money is power.
Yeah, it's a shame because like on the surface of it, Britain is like equally in a very favourable place geographically. It's just unfortunately in the process of killing itself, so it doesn't really matter.
Alongside,
I think this will be the last video I do. I'm actually good news. I'm gonna go back to work. Probably. I mean, definitely at least for a little bit. I don't know if I'll be staying there for very much longer. I hope I will be. But yeah, I finally got the email that to go back to work. So I'll still be streaming. I mean, it's only 2 weeks and then I go off for summer holidays. So I'll have 6 weeks off in the summer to just focus on streaming as well. So I think that's the plan. But even when I go back to work, I'm a teaching assistant. Yeah, even when I do go back to work, I'll still be streaming. Like I've been trying to switch my streaming times to just be in the evenings. I finish work at 4, so it's pretty chill. I have a lot of my day left over to do stuff. So yeah, hoping I can just keep this going.
You can do that while you watch this ad. While Roman emperors messed with money to run the world, you can use yours to...
Instead of an ad, a quick music break. Here's the theme from the movie Obsession. I learnt it on the piano because I really like it. So good.
Control on this process.
That sucks. Sorry. I think writing capital probably ruined Marx's sleep schedule. So I mean, it's a kind of revenge from the grave. I think. I'm reading Class Struggles of 1848, and it's brilliant. Like I'd really highly recommend reading some of Marx's political works because it's a lot easier to understand as well. Yeah, that's a very good book to read. I'd probably recommend reading that before whatever I've recommended. We sell a book called The Classics of Marxism. Yeah, so this is our like introductory book that we get people who join our organization to read, and then we like go through it with them. So like, these are like these as far as we like understand them are like the foundational documents of Marxism, from various different times as well. This was written in the 1840s. This was written in the 1880s. This was written in the 1910s, and this was written in the 1930s. So, yeah, would highly recommend. And then, yeah, after that, you can move straight on to now. Wage, Labor and Capital and Value, Price and Profit might be a bit. I mean, they're still good books to read, but you've already finished Capital, so they're like, you've covered this. Yeah, this is a fantastic book on what it actually means to be a communist, like what you actually do. How to do politics, basically. It's a brilliant book. We've just finished doing a reading group on it, and we're about to do this one. This book is basically, yeah, that's from Stalinists. Basically, like, because Trotsky argued against Stalin and then was expelled from the party, expelled from the country, and then assassinated by him. There's a lot of hysteria about him being like a CIA agent. And it's true that like Trotskyism, because basically Trotsky died before he could really get Trotskyism off the ground. And so it ended up being led by a bunch of like just like academics, weirdos, sex pests. He wasn't really working with great material. So Trotskyism has a kind of dirty name after Trotsky dies, unfortunately. We obviously try and keep that flame. We carry the flame, so to speak. No, he wasn't a CIA agent. But no, there's all sorts of hysteria about him being like, but basically just because Trotsky opposed the state bureaucracy, but he defended the Soviet Union. He at no point argued that like the Soviet Union should be invaded by another country and capitalism should be restored. He always argued against those things. And then, yeah, this book is a really, really good book to understand the how different Stalinism really is from Bolshevism. So like basically you can't do that. It's not feasible to build socialism in one country first and then export it to other countries. It's a nice idea, but this it's just going to lead to your revolution getting surrounded and smothered and killed. You have to export the revolution on pain of death. Like of the revolution, I mean. Like, if you do not spread the revolution will fail. This is the history of the 20th century. If you don't spread it, capitalism gets restored. We actually recently made a very good article explaining Trotsky's position on permanent revolution. Yeah, no, it was. This was originally in the Theoretical Journal. So yeah, this will be a very good summary of Trotsky and Trotskyism. There's always so much to read, though. That's the thing. There's a very good. Actually, this if I have one thing to share with you before I go, actually, I think I might just share this and then. Trotsky's advice to young Marxists: don't spread yourself too thin. Dear comrades, you complain that you have not been able to read even 1/10 of the books that interest you, and ask how to rationally allot your time. This is a very difficult question because in the long run, each person must make such a decision according to his particular interests and needs. It should be said, however, that the extent to which a person is able to keep up with the current literature, whether scientific, political, or otherwise, depends not only on having the judicious allotments of one's time, but also on the individual's previous training. In regard to your specific reference to party youth, I can only advise them not to hurry, not to spread themselves too thin, not to skip from one topic to another, and not to pass on to a second book until the first has been properly read, thought over, and mastered. I remember that when I myself belonged to the category of youth, I too felt that there just wasn't enough time. Even in prison, when I did nothing but read, it seemed that one couldn't get enough done in a day. In the ideological sphere, just as in the economic arena, the phase of primitive accumulation is the most difficult and troublesome. Only after certain basic elements of knowledge, and particularly elements of theoretical skill and method, have been precisely mastered and have become, so to speak, part of the flesh and blood of one's intellectual activity, does it become easier to keep up with the literature, not only in areas in which one is familiar with, but in adjacent and even more remote fields of knowledge, because method, in the final analysis, is universal. It is better to read one book and read it well. It is better to master a little bit at a time and master it thoroughly. Only in this way will your powers of mental comprehension extend themselves naturally. Thought will gradually gain confidence in itself and grow more productive. With these preliminaries in mind, it would not be difficult to rationally allot your time, and then the transition from one pursuit to another will be, to a certain extent, pleasurable.
If you've ever had a 4-minute conversation with a libertarian, you'll know that the one thing they hate more than the age of consent is the fact that we no longer operate under the gold standard. When China's currency started creeping up in value in the 1990s, they did something different. They slashed the official value of their own currency by a third overnight. This
is what happens when you read Marx, by the way.
Which in turn,
you'll notice you gain this magic power to predict things. It's incredible. Like, this is kind of what Trotsky is. There's actually something I wanted to say after the Trotsky letter, which is that the thing you gain from reading Marxist texts, a lot of it is knowledge. Like, a lot of it is just like stuff that you learn. But the more important thing you need to learn is how Marx thinks. That is the triumph of Marx. It's not actually anything he wrote in particular, but it's the way in which he thinks, his philosophical process. That is the crown jewel of Marxism. That is why any of Lenin's writings are any good. It's why Trotsky's writings are any good, right? And so what you need to do is, like, if you want to become a Marxist, which I would recommend you do, you need to learn to think like Marx. And the best way to do that is just by reading what he wrote. And then, it's one, to do that, you need to read what he wrote. That's the theory side of it. But then the other side of it is then you need to apply it. Because the theory actually means nothing. Thanks. If the theory means nothing if you don't apply it to the movement in the way that Marx applied it to the movement. Right? Because what happens, there's a long history of this, of people who are absolute geniuses who had read more Marx than anyone else, and they end up joining the counter-revolution. And it's because they are in some way detached from the actual movement of the working class. Their interests and the interests of the working class become misaligned, and they end up joining the counter-revolution. Plekhanov, Kautsky, there's countless Marxists who have gone down this road. So this is the other half of it, is you need to get involved. You need to get involved in the actual real movement of the working class, because that is where you test your ideas and you test your ability as well to explain your ideas to regular people. This is basically what I'm trying to do on Twitch, by reacting to the news, kind of, and responding to people's questions. Like, it's the same sort of thing. The revolution is not going to happen once everyone has read Capital. All right, that's not going to happen. So it's your job to apply the lessons that you've learned to the actual existing movement, the existing class struggle, and participate in it, and win the leadership of the working class. It's a big task. But like, this is the other thing that I'm on Twitch for, is like practice. Like, a lot of the stuff I've said this stream, I've been like really pleased with, right? Like, I'm hopefully going to go back and clip some of these out. But this is basically like a low stakes environment for me to practice my public speaking. So that, like, if I ever am in front of a crowd of 1,000 people, I say the right shit, you know? I don't see American imperialism. I think American imperialism will last as long as capitalism does, basically. I don't think there's going to be, like, another imperialist power that comes after America. I think that's it. Because, like, all of the other economies in the world are pegged to the success of the Western economies. And Europe's cooked, all right? So it basically is just pegged at the moment to the AI bubble that's currently going on in the America, that is keeping the entire American economy afloat at the moment. Mad world we've built.
Digital bank.
Yeah. It's the sick old man part of the American empire.
The financial innovations of our time. And they might make you assume...
Sorry, I'm thinking more about the UK. Europe actually is got some things going for it. My bad. Sorry. I consider the UK to be part of Europe, and we are like the sick old man of the sick old man, you know?
further into digital
Like Europe as a whole at least still has some industry and some dynamism. The UK is fucked, man. We're basically torn between the success of European socialism and rabid American capitalist despotism. And we're like torn between these two influences, basically.
All that entire.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. Here's the thing. Like, it is going to pop eventually. I think everyone's hoping for it to pop soon, right? And I think we're letting that hope get in the way of, like, this bubble seems incredibly resistant to popping. I'm not saying it's not going to pop. I'm just saying I think it's going to be slower than people are hoping. I have a feeling that this reset, like, that this... Here's my feeling, all right? That this recession that the global economy is going to face is not going to be like a Great Depression thing where the markets crash and then everything falls apart. I think it's going to be slower. Like, this seems to be what's happening. Like, maybe I'm just mistaking. Maybe I'm mistaking stuff, and I don't understand the situation. It's possible. I'm not an economics expert, but like, what it seems to me is that, like, the fallout from jobs, the unemployment, the increasing like untenability of AI investment, the like failed projects that where like billions will have been invested into, like projects which go nowhere. All of this stuff, I don't think it's all gonna like hit at once. I think it's just gonna suck for the next 15 years. Like, I could be wrong.
In their
like, my reason for saying that as well isn't just vibes. Like I think this bubble is basically too big to fail. Like that like a bank would only pull out if they saw like a more viable alternative to invest in, and I don't think that will ever happen, like, unless it becomes more viable to just hold your money, which is generally true in the economy anyway. But like will a major like, we're basically banking on like one of the like this is so much worse than any other economic situation ever, because like the entire growth of the American economy is being held up by like 6 companies that are just passing money between each other. Like, we've never had a more irrational economic situation in world history.
That the atoms contained in those first
this is a big
coins.
Like, this is so like I've started using this thing which is basically an LLM that you can load a bunch of I might have shown this to you already. But like, I'm even kind of like, I basically use this to like help me find sources, because it cites everything that it writes, and so it's kind of useful for like going through a wide variety of. I'm basically using it for like literature review, and so like, but even I'm like incredibly cautious about this. Like, I'm like, ooh, the evil I feel it emanating from it. It's kind of cool that like, so I asked it to make flashcards on Marxist economics. This will be like good for you, because a lot of this will be drawn from Capital. So yeah, like, it's a good way of like revising. Yeah, like, people are using it to avoid thinking, basically. And I might update. I hope that like, if I update the source texts I'm using, that it gets updated for everyone, because I might like refine it to like, yeah, more appropriate text. But at the moment, it's basically got a bunch of texts by Marx, Engels, Lenin, Trotsky, and then a few texts from our organization as well, covering areas of history that were like later, or covering some gaps, or doing like summaries. So it is like a partisan source. Like, it's not a neutral Marxist thing. It's very much our organization's interpretation of Marxism. But I obviously subscribe to that view, so I mainly made it for me, in fairness. But like, the tool is still useful for you, because you can make your own notebook with your own sources. Like, what I would really recommend doing is just putting in sources of stuff that you've read already, so that way it's literally just like a notebook of all the stuff you've read, and that way it's a way of consulting stuff. Like, yeah, basically. Yeah, and that way it's not drawing on stuff that you haven't read, so you don't know the context for. Not saying I've read everything in here, though. I have, yeah. I've read a chunk of this. Yeah, we don't need to watch IDF Rage Bait, you know. Maybe a little bit. Maybe we can watch 20 minutes of IDF Rage Bait.
Hi, my name is Kai Alon, and I'm a dancer from Hadera, Israel. Throughout my life, many people have asked me what the meaning behind my name is. Kai is the name of a war hero. From a young age, I learned a lot from her. Her battle paid off because both of us survived. I felt I inherited her fighting spirit. And in these moments, I learned how to dance. When I dance, I feel free. I lived life the way she wanted me to live it. I didn't
Do you know who doesn't feel free?
I was determined to practice in order to face the challenges that came my way. Thanks to many good people that I met along the way, I began believing in myself and in my dancing abilities. I think
they just don't think that, like,
to keep dancing. My name is Kai Alon. I'm a dancer from Hadera, and I serve in the Israeli Defense Forces.
Fuck me.
That be its various TikTok pages. As
Like, this is kind of what I mean, like, these guys being beyond satire. It's like, you can't actually make fun of them. They are just in and of themselves ridiculous, but they don't see it.
Broadly is media, and I
Nice. Well, you never know. Not actually the iron-proof defense you'd think it is. They will find a way.
To drink delicious Israeli.
I do that too. If I see someone, like, it's not good, but if I see someone being, like, really annoying on the street in, like, this really Karen way, I just go, like, in my head.
Use the code Israel10 for a discount and drink Iron Dome coffee.
And free from all departments.
Like, basically, if anyone's acting, like, entitled or, like hypocritical or just anything liberal, anything like that.
Just like with...
Don't worry, Twitch is going to call you anti-Semitic, alright, if you don't watch out.
More honest about...
Yeah, no, I know, it's fucking awful.
Palestinians.
No, this is the point I made, is like, Zionism depends on anti-Semitism. Zionism makes no sense in a world without anti-Semitism. Right? Anti-Semitism is the justification for Zionism. And so this is why the Zionists are the biggest promoters and encouragers of anti-Semitism everywhere in the world. Not only through their actions, not only through their interference in foreign elections. They literally embody every anti-Semitic trope that every Nazi and every anti-Semite throughout history has portrayed the Jew. Like, they're fucking awful. And then they claim to represent all Jews while doing it. Fuck off. One of the big things with socialism, or like one of the big problems with capitalism, is how it smothers small businesses and crushes enterprise, right? Like, we can argue that capitalism in its early format had like some dynamism and had some competition and all these progressive elements of a market system. But the modern monopoly capitalism, which has existed in some form for over 100 years, basically, yeah, smothers and eliminates competition, innovation, progress. So we very clearly need to preserve the entrepreneurial dynamism in a post-capitalist society, right? And one of the ways we do that in, like, immediately after the revolution is we wouldn't make it illegal to own a business, because it depends on how many small business owners there are in the country. If there's barely any of them left, then, but like, assuming that we still live in a country where there are small businesses, which I mean is the likely thing, what we would actually do is because we would have nationalized the banks, we could actually extend much cheaper credit to small businesses to allow them to run their businesses more profitably, but we might condition that money with laws about how that business needs to be run, that there needs to be that you can't just have like unlimited wage differentials, basically just to ensure that the money doesn't go straight to the bosses, right? Like, to ensure that the money is actually invested in the business, right? But that's how investment works. So yeah, and then the other thing is that eventually small businesses would need to be convinced to come, like, to become a part of, like, the planned economy. And that doesn't necessarily mean losing control of their businesses, but it just means, like, coming into the national plan of production. Can you exploit the bourgeoisie? I mean, you can try. I don't really know what you mean.
And this internationalism has taken more of a focus recently as well. If you go on their pages, you see videos about international volunteers, videos of IDF soldiers speaking in their native language, which isn't Hebrew, it's actually a European language.
Joyeuse fête de l'indépendance.
Feliz Día de la Independencia.
Днем независимости.
Feliz Día de Independencia.
Happy Independence Day from the IDF.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. I actually don't know who that is.
And courage that
from the United
Singaporean
States from Hungary.
Politician?
And what is amazing to
I don't know very much about him, so I wouldn't.
My favorite part of volunteering
I wouldn't say.
getting to know the.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like this was in an area where capitalism had not yet been developed, and the policies that you're talking about are basically the policies of, like, early 18th and 19th century capitalism in the UK. Like, that's what the UK did during that time. I'm not sure we 10x annual income, but, like, yeah, like, I'd love to know more about, like, working conditions and stuff during that period. But, like, it sounds like a capitalist success story, but that's not rare. Like, I suspect the reason he was able to do that were the consequence of a very particular set of geopolitical factors. Like, the reason why it's like you have all these countries, right, in Africa, in Asia, that have enormous, like, material wealth, or, like, you know, natural resources and stuff. For some reason, their economies aren't able to develop, and the reason is they're basically permanently enslaved to Western imperialism. And so they just can't develop. They're just constantly being pillaged. Mainly through, like, IDF loans and stuff. IDF? IMF. International Monetary Fund.
Increasing isolation from the world. The change in media guidelines was due to security concerns. A spokesperson...
No, they just think the whole world's against them. Like, they have to do it. Because the whole world's against them. They're protecting themselves, like they always have been. The Israeli Defense Force. But they've got rocks. Sometimes they throw the rocks at the tanks. What do you want them to do? They have bits of rubble from the home that's been destroyed, and then they... it's awful. We simply must blow them up. We must simply shoot their newborns in the head with drones. We must simply play games where one day we shoot all arms, and the next day we shoot all knees, and the next day we shoot all heads. Do you know of any companies that aren't supported, that aren't built on capitalism? Are you suggesting that I just go live in the woods, and that's how I beat capitalism, by just living in the woods? You know, literally everything I buy is made by a company. Like, I'm a music producer. This is the best tool for making music. It's just a fact. Trust me, I was a Windows kid growing up. I'm not like an Apple fanboy. I fucking hated Apple my entire life. The reason I've switched is because it was important for me to do the work that I wanted to do. It's a tool, alright? It's not a personal endorsement. I'm not fucking sponsored by Apple, alright? Okay, are you aware that Marxism very clearly states that communism is based off of advanced capitalism? They're not like opposites. The whole point of communism is that we take all the good stuff that capitalism has done, that capitalism is no longer able to use in a useful way, and we then just use that stuff for stuff that we actually need, rather than the insane god of profit that serves no one apart from fucking shareholders. Alright? I love advanced capitalism, alright? Every Marxist should love advanced capitalism, and we love the aspects of it that we are going to use to build a better world, alright? I think on that note, I will end the stream. But it has been a very good stream today. I've really enjoyed it. I won't be on tomorrow because I'm going to a social thing. I might be on like earlier in the day, but I might just take the day off and come back on Thursday. Yeah. yeah, have a good night, everyone. And see you some other time.